Now, Manchester United's midfield rebuild is continuing. They've completed the signing of Andrey Santos from Chelsea for £50 million. United will pay a guaranteed £48 million plus £2 million in add-ons. Chelsea retain a 10% sell-on clause. Well, the Brazil international has signed a contract until June 2031 with the option to extend for a further year, and he'll wear the number 17 shirt. Well, United are not done there. Today they also agreed a £36 million deal for the Aston Villa midfielder Youri Tielemans. Now, we at Sky Sports News understand the midfielder has a release clause in his contract that is being triggered by United. Discussions are advancing quickly as a result, with Belgium having been knocked out of the World Cup by Spain over the weekend. Well, United's move for Tielemans comes after the breakdown of their deal for Ederson over a medical issue. Now, United denied the deal was off to us at Sky Sports News last week following reports, and although it won't progress on the initial price and structure, they may go back to attempting to sign the Brazilian later in the window.
So Andrey Santos is in, but Manchester United's midfield search does not end there. Let's get more with our reporter Dharmesh Sheth. OK, so a surprise move for Youri Tielemans.
Yeah, this one caught everyone on the hop. I don't think anyone was talking about it, even less than 24 hours ago. And then reports started emerging this morning that Manchester United were indeed in advanced talks to sign the Aston Villa midfielder Youri Tielemans. And the question was then, given he's such a key player for Aston Villa, why would Aston Villa consider selling Tielemans to Manchester United? Well, it's kind of out of their hands because part of his contract includes a release clause. And Manchester United are prepared to meet that release clause, which is believed to be in the region of £36 million. The talks and the discussions have kind of accelerated since Belgium were knocked out of the World Cup by Spain last week. And it's accelerated even more in the last 24 to 48 hours, to the point where we're expecting sooner rather than later, not if, but when Youri Tielemans becomes a Manchester United player and makes that transfer from Aston Villa.
Wow. So does this move for Tielemans mean, what does it mean for United's deal with Ederson?
Right, so this is really interesting because at the start of this transfer window, we all knew that the priority for Manchester United was midfield. 1, 2, maybe even 3 midfielders coming in. And the one that looked nailed on above any other one in the last couple of weeks was Ederson from Atalanta. The deal had been agreed between both clubs at around £38 million. He had part of his medical when he was called up as a late call-up to the Brazil squad, and then the medical continued in the UK when Brazil had been knocked out by Norway. Now, it's understood that there was a slight issue with his medical, and on the agreed terms, Manchester United weren't prepared to continue with that deal. It doesn't mean it's the end of it. Manchester United could still revisit this deal throughout this transfer window, depending on what else happens when they bring in other midfielders. However, when you say, is it more on than off, you'd have to say it's more off than on right now. And as it stands, there's an expectation that Ederson, in fact, won't be coming now to Manchester United, despite that agreement with Atalanta. Atalanta, for their part, say, no issues. There's no injury problems with this player. So it'll be interesting to see if and when we can get to the bottom of what actually has happened here, whether it is a medical issue or whether Manchester United have decided actually we want to move on to other targets. If he does end up staying at Atalanta, then the reports are suggesting that they might even offer him a new contract and an extended one to stay at the club.
This is a bit of a plot twist, isn't it? OK, look, who else could United target?
Yeah, so if we look at the fact that they've signed one in Andrey Santos, Youri Tielemans is almost nailed on now, so that could be 2. There is a third one that they are looking at. Now, there are a number of midfielders that United have been looking at throughout this transfer window. Aurelien Tchouameni is one from Real Madrid. However, Jose Mourinho, we think, wants to keep him there, and he's expected to sign a new contract at the Bernabeu. Alex Scott from Bournemouth, he appears to be moving higher up that target list as far as Manchester United are concerned. Bournemouth do not want to sell Alex Scott. And you can see why. He's been fantastic for them, on the verge of getting into that England World Cup squad, wasn't he? He just missed out on that one. It would take a huge offer, but if a huge offer was to come in, it'll be interesting to see what Bournemouth's reaction would be and if that huge offer was to come in, what Alex Scott's reaction would be. Would he agitate then for that move to go to Manchester United or indeed to another club, because he's been linked with other clubs as well. Felix Metscher from Borussia Dortmund is another player Manchester United have been linked with. And Sander Berge is an interesting one, because when United signed Manuel Ugarte, he was on their list at that time as well. So there's a long-term admiration for this player. He still remains on that list, but it looks like Alex Scott is the one that they are focusing on at the moment if they are to bring in a third midfielder. But make no mistake about it, from the outset of this window, midfield was a huge priority. 2, maybe even 3 midfielders could come in at Old Trafford, particularly with Ugarte's injury and Casemiro leaving the club as well.
Great. OK, Dharmesh, thank you. Let's get to Manchester United's midfield rebuild. The club have completed the signing of Andrey Santos from Chelsea for £50 million. The deal will see United pay a guaranteed £48 million plus £2 million in add-ons, and Chelsea retain a 10% sell-on clause. The Brazil international has signed a contract until June 2031 with the option to extend for a further year, and he will wear the number 17 shirt. Well, this is what United's Director of Football, Jason Wilcox, has said. Andrey is an outstanding midfielder with excellent technical qualities and the ability to impact the game at both ends of the pitch. He was a key target for us in an important position, so we are delighted that he will join Michael's squad so early in pre-season. Well, overall, Santos played 47 games in all competitions and had a passing accuracy rate of over 90%. Santos also recorded impressive numbers for forward passes per 90 minutes and the number of duels he won.
We start with the fascinating breaking news in the last hour and a fresh twist in Manchester United's turbulent search for a midfielder. As you can see, Dharmesh Sheth alongside me now. And Dharmesh, a name that none of us saw coming.
This one has come pretty much out of the blue, Joe, and it is about the man you can see on your screen just now. That is Youri Tielemans from Aston Villa. It's our understanding that Manchester United are in advanced talks to sign the Aston Villa midfielder Youri Tielemans. The big question is why would Aston Villa want to sell? Well, they don't want to sell. They have got no intention of selling Youri Tielemans. However, they have been hamstrung slightly because part of his contract contains a release clause, which we understand to be around £36 million, which Manchester United are prepared to pay. This one is going to accelerate, and it has accelerated since Belgium were knocked out of the World Cup by Spain last week. And since that has happened, Manchester United have put the wheels in motion. And when you have a release clause and a club is prepared to meet it, this kind of deal can move very, very quickly. And that's what looks like it is happening now. Manchester United in advanced talks to sign Youri Tielemans from Aston Villa for a fee of around £36 million, which is the release clause in the Belgian international's contracts.
And you mentioned the question, why would Aston Villa want to sell him? Why do you think Manchester United are targeting him?
I don't know how many times I've stood here with you, Joe, during this transfer window so far. And when we've talked about Manchester United, the big priority throughout this transfer window has been midfield. And from it being, they need to sign one midfielder, maybe two midfielders. We could even see Manchester United trying to sign 3 midfielders in this transfer window. So that has been the priority from minute one of this transfer window. In fact, even before the transfer window opened, because we knew that Casemiro was going to be leaving Manchester United. And now there's the added complication that Manuel Ugarte has got a serious knee injury that he suffered during the World Cup with Uruguay. And you know what? I think Manchester United might have been prepared to listen to offers for someone like Manuel Ugarte to free up some squad space, some wages space and some transfer fee money to come into the club to be able to fund other midfield moves. But it's clear that Ugarte isn't going anywhere at the moment, and it's clear he's not going to be playing for Manchester United having that serious knee injury. So United in the market for 2, maybe even 3 midfielders. Youri Tielemans looks like he could be one of them.
Yeah, and what about where they stand in terms of those other midfield targets? Are they close to bringing any more in right now?
Right. 2 big stories over the past week. We do know that they had agreed a deal with Atalanta for Ederson for a fee in the region of £38 million. He'd been having a medical over the past week once Brazil had been knocked out of the World Cup by Norway. However, that one now has gone a little bit cold, and that deal looks like it is in the balance. It is more off than on at the moment. So as it stands, it doesn't look like Manchester United are going to pursue a deal for Ederson from Atalanta. For Atalanta's part, they maintain that the player is fully fit. We haven't been given full details on why this deal might break down, whether it's a medical issue or whether Manchester United have simply had a change of heart and then diverted their attention to someone like Youri Tielemans. The other player that looks like it is very, very close and a deal has been agreed is with Chelsea for their Brazilian midfielder, Andrey Santos. That deal is worth £50 million. It's £48 million initial payment plus £2 million in performance-related add-ons. Now, if you add up those two fees, 50 million plus 36 million, it's £86 million. That's almost exactly the same fee that Tottenham Hotspur have paid West Ham United for Matheus Fernandes, who, of course, Manchester United were interested in as well. The other midfielders we need to keep an eye on with regard to United. Aurelien Tchouameni was a big target of theirs throughout this window, but it looks like Jose Mourinho wants to keep him at Real Madrid, and he's expected to sign a new contract. The other names in the frame, moving higher up the list, Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott. There's a big interest there from Manchester United. Whether Bournemouth would want to do business in this transfer window over one of their prized assets, that's another question. Sander Berge is another player from Fulham who United have had an historic interest in, and maybe another player who is on that list. Ayoub Bouadi, we've all seen how he performed for Morocco during the World Cup. He's another name that has been mentioned. And Felix Mecha from Borussia Dortmund. Again, a long-term admiration for Manchester United has been held. Maybe one of those, or maybe, as we've seen with Youri Tielemans, there'll be another name that comes out from nowhere and Manchester United will try and pursue.
Yes, we'll be talking about this a lot more over the coming days, Darmish.